Got a great lineup for you today. It is so good to have you with us. This is a fascinating time in American politics. For the first time since he took office, Barack Obama must deal with a Congress entirely in enemy hands. Republicans like to write off the president, but the reality is he's still the man for another 2 years. But can he find common ground with the folks who rule at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue? In addition, the scramble to replace Mr. Obama is ramping up even sooner than the pros expected. This weekend's big event in Iowa, just the latest example of that. Lots for us to discuss with former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore. He is just back from the Hawkeye State. He joins us now. In addition to his term in Richmond, Mr. Gilmore chaired a very important pre-11 9/11 panel on the terror threat. Great having you here.
Thank you, Bruce.
Welcome.
My pleasure.
Thanks very much for your time. There's so much to discuss that's right in your wheelhouse. Can I begin by asking about the drone that landed on the White House lawn? As a man who focused on terror, I think before the rest of us, because of the work you did with the so-called Gilmore Commission, you've been thinking about these issues for a long time. Drones are more affordable than ever. Folks are having them, hobbyists and what have you. What do you make of this latest incident?
Well, I think that it does highlight the fact that when you have the danger that this guy is not this, but the danger that maybe there are nefarious people somewhere up the road that want to use modern technology against us in the modern world, then you're going to end up with a lot of danger. The 9/11 attack is an example of that. That was the use of a modern technology by a medieval way of thinking. And as a result, modern civilization and its abilities are clashing with medieval thinking that's very evil, and it's creating this kind of incendiary problem in an open society like the United States. It creates potential dangers, Bruce.
How much pressure is there on folks who think about the terror threat broadly? And I'm not just focused on the White House, though that is one very important and dramatic example of where they've got to get it right 24/7. How much urgency is there on local law enforcement, the anti-terror community, and others to come up with a drone response?
Well, there'll be a lot. I mean, I that we form Americans Against Drunk Droning. How about that? No, okay, all right.
and in this example, that appears to have been part of the equation.
Yeah, the guy was, I think, playing with something. But the fact is that it does, make a potentially dangerous situation if you can fly a drone and land it on the White House, near the White House, and fill it full of explosives or a dirty bomb. But there are a lot of things that you can imagine that could happen, Bruce, in the United States. There are a lot of things that could happen, and I'm concerned. I think that up the road, that we're going to have to prepare the American people for the potential dangers ahead. And the reason I say that is just because somebody does do something really bad, the tragedy is right there and immediate, but the long-term danger is the reaction of the United States, and that might eliminate some civil freedoms. And I am in favor of working very hard to maintain our civil freedoms while we confront this historic challenge.
But there is likely to be a clash of civil freedoms, because if you and I are neighbors, and I'm the type that wants to peek in your bedroom window, my ability to fly a drone over our fence and into your bedroom window is going to clash with your ability to have reasonable privacy in your own home.
No doubt about it, and that's why there have to be reasonable regulations and rules to prevent people from being irresponsible with this kind of thing. And that's pretty reasonable. You issue a driver's license, so when you drive a car, then you have to obey the rules of the road. And I think that we're headed that way for drones. But it doesn't eliminate the danger that you're going to see some challenges in the United States that are ahead, and we have to be mentally prepared for it, emotionally prepared for it, so that we know that these are challenges we're facing as Americans, as people in Western civilization, and we have to know exactly within some perspective how to deal with it properly.
Let's shift gears and talk politics. You're just back from Iowa. You were among the boldface names, the leaders in the party addressing a large gathering pulled together by Congressman Steve King and others. What was it like? I want to ask you about your speech in a moment, but take us to the event if you can.
Well,
what was it like?
Look, it was a great event. It was held in a historic hall in Des Moines, Iowa. There were a lot of people. There were about 1,200 people in the audience, and these were people of substance. They were party people interested in the process in Iowa, which is the first caucus state in the presidential selection. There was a lot of glamour in it. There were about 400 press people there, all the major news outlets. It was being covered by C-SPAN, which is always kind of fun. But there were the speakers were people who I think are going to help shape the 2016 election. to come forward and put their names forward with ideas. And, you know, it was interesting to watch. And you could see, you know, some of the people who spoke probably didn't have an awful lot of substance to say. I tried to actually contribute some ideas, which is the whole basis of what I'm doing in public life right now. And I think that people had a chance to measure and assess all this.
What do you hope the folks who heard your speech came away with? I mean, what were your main ideas?
Well, my main ideas are to focus on what I believe are the principal challenges facing the United States of America today. And they are two things. Number one, the resurgence and redeeming of the American economy, and making sure that we revitalize the American economy so that people can have a really good forward-looking opportunity in life in the United States, a better quality of life, a better way of earning money, a better way of really getting better jobs. And the second thing is the national security of the United States. As you said, I chaired the National Commission on Terrorism and Homeland Security for the United States for 5 years. And I care deeply about these issues. I think the foreign policy of the United States is bad. I think it has been bad in the past. Now we're lurching away from that into something currently that's bad and dangerous. And I think the Republicans could very easily nominate a candidate who has a bad foreign policy. So I want to offer something more optimistic and more positive, a new approach to foreign policy. And those were the two messages that I gave in my talk.
Let me take them in the order you raised them. Mitt Romney's comment at that a closed-door gathering where there happened to be a camera about the 47% was a significant moment in the campaign, and a lot of people believed that it hurt him. Do you think there will be more attention paid in the lead-up to the 2016 race for the White House, both in the primaries, plural, and the general election, on wage stagnation and income inequality, the gap between those who are comfortable?
My goal of speaking out at the national level, I want to make sure that people are not misled by all this news that's been coming about how great everything is, how wonderful everything is. Yesterday we saw that durable goods orders were down, not up. It was shocking to people. The stock market took a big turn down. You can't do politics based on the stock market. But the point is that there is room for improvement. There's not just a matter of we're all better now, so there's room for improvement. We are not in good shape. Young people are not getting jobs. The unemployment rate ignores the fact that we have about 8.6 Americans unemployed and another 6 Americans that are working part-time that want to be full-time employed.
And those who stopped looking are no longer counted.
They're no longer counted, and so you have an artificial rate of unemployment. I say that we have to do something. I say that we cannot stand pat. We can't just rest on our laurels. We have to get out there and actually do a real reform of the tax system to spur investment and to get wages moving again. And we're not doing it. And that's why I went to Iowa, to assert that very strong position that this is a place where the Republican Party needs to go to stand up for working people in this country.
You talk about foreign policy. I won't have time this segment to talk in depth about it, but I am eager to get your thoughts on the on House Speaker John decision to invite the Israeli Prime Minister to address a joint session, to address the House of Representatives. It doesn't appear as though Mr. Netanyahu will be meeting with the President while he's here, and some view this as a snub on multiple levels.
Yeah, I think that it's tough. I think the President's taking the position he doesn't want to intervene in Israeli politics, which is going on right now. But I think this is an opportunity the President's missing, and I said so in Iowa. I think he ought to invite Benjamin Netanyahu into the White House. I think this is an opportunity, never mind Israeli politics or American politics or whether the House was right or wrong, to invite the Prime Minister. The point is, this is an opportunity for the United States to stand tall with an ally that is under attack. As recently as this morning, Israeli soldiers were killed by Hezbollah, and to stand and say that we're going to take a strong position worldwide against this kind of misconduct and this kind of assault that we're seeing from these medieval thinking people.
Columnist Richard Cohen made the point in a column that there's a concern that American support for Israel could become partisan, that it's traditionally been deep and bipartisan, nonpartisan, but that it could become just another thing where the red team and the blue team go to their respective corners with differing views. Do you share that concern?
I don't know whether that's going to come to pass or not. It depends a lot on how the Democrats react to the Speaker's invitation and how the President reacts. But I want to come back to this point. We need to get beyond that. This is an opportunity for the United States to stand up decisively and say, we're in this. We're in this with our British and French and German allies. We're in this with our Israeli allies. This is an assault worldwide that must be addressed. We Americans are going to not deviate and stand strong.
Talking with former Virginia Governor and panel, anti-terror panel Chairman Jim Gilmore. A break here. Back, though, with more News Talk. Conversation here on News Talk with former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore. You're just back from Iowa, as we mentioned before. 2016, for most Americans, is a long way off, but this is a fascinating time. A lot of the strategists, the pros, if you will, they feel as though the jockeying for position ahead of the race for president in the next election is hotter, that it's ramping up more quickly than they expected. As you thought about your own remarks to that large and perceived to be influential gathering, and as you heard others speak and just took in the whole process, what thoughts did you have about the sort of raucous nature of this competition? Some of it's inevitable, a lot of it's good, but there was a belief after 2012 that having so many candidates and so many raucous debates, even if there were a lot of individuals who had a lot to offer, that somehow the noisiness of it all undercut the party's push to take back the White House. Do you have any thoughts along those lines?
Well, of course, Americans love politics, and this is a lot about theater, and we're talking about it, right now, as a matter of fact. But to me, I think that the contribution the Republicans need to make is to address concerns of the American people and to say these are the issues that are significant to us, what we think is important, and what we want to propose to do. For example, in my talk on growth, economic growth, I put in a specific tax program which I know will grow the economy if it could be enacted properly. I put it in specifically, and it was right there. One of the press people later said, well, you're the only one that actually put in a specific tax proposal. But I've been preparing that for a long time, several years as a matter of fact, thinking about and learning about what we need to do. So your answer is there's a lot of hoopla, and that's part of the American experience, and I think it's great. But it should not substitute. We shouldn't take glamour and glitz and substitute it for what really needs to be done for the American people, not for our entertainment, but for their best interests.
Are you considering running for president?
Well, yeah, I'm considering it, but I think that's a long way off. I think that right now we need to focus on what is important, not just to me, but to the American people, and that is jobs and opportunities and wage increases in this country, and how we do it, and whether we have a candidate who's committed to doing it. Right now, we have a president who is not committed to economic growth. We just is not. In fact, everything that's been done so far has been a burden on investment. Investment is what builds up the economy, creates jobs, and puts upward pressure on wages. It's deliberately not happening, and where that needs change. And the danger, of course, of the international situation is very serious, and I think we have to have a legitimate conversation about our foreign policy and what needs to be done.
Can you talk to the disconnect between the Wall Street's apparent enthusiasm for the economy, the Dow in record territory for quite a long time? I mean, if we went back to the period after the economy collapsed, or even before, I think the notion of the Dow at 17,000, 18,000, you would have been laughed out of the room. Now it's part of our daily reality. And yet people like you talk in very negative terms, or you express great concern about the economy. What's Wall Street missing that the rest of us are experiencing, or vice versa? Well, what are we missing that Wall Street is experiencing?
Well, no, I'm pleased that Wall Street's doing well. I'm pleased that the stock market is up. That's okay with me. That's a symbol of American success also.
Not a huge sign that corporate profits are very high and that corporate optimism is very high?
That's all fine if it means that we're really genuinely growing the economy, and I don't believe we are. There's evidence that shows that too many Americans are unemployed. Single women are unemployed in larger numbers. You talk about a war on women. We need to get opportunities for single women and single mothers to have an opportunity to take care of their families without resorting necessarily to state support. It's a better quality of life if you can have more jobs and more growth and wage increase. That is not happening. And I think that it must be the program of the Republican Party to be committed to the growth of the American economy.
A lot of the discussion, substantive discussion, among the Republican, sort of the big names. I'm struggling for a better way to say it. Some of the folks who are in office now, et cetera, who are considering running for the White House next time. Do we have a more involved foreign policy where we're committing our resources and we're playing an active role in different parts of the world, or is it more sort of libertarian, not so hawkish? Is that
no? I'll answer you directly.
Yeah, please.
What we're seeing in American national security discussions today is this. We saw, I think, a very reckless foreign policy and national security policy previously, and we're still coping with the recklessness of that. That's the neocons idea that military invasion and military quick intervention first and best approach. Then you get a reaction by President Obama. It's a neo-isolationist and saying, pull back, pull back, pull back. The result now is the world is deteriorating. These very savage influences are coming to the fore. There's a great deal of danger in this, and I propose that there be a third approach. And by the way, we could nominate a neo-isolationist Republican candidate that would be just as dangerous as the Democrat. So our responsibility is to not let that happen. I propose that there be a third way, an approach that says that we are forward-leaning, we're involved, we're shaping events, but we're using all the elements, economic, diplomatic, military, to shape events to the benefit and the advantage and safety and security of the people of the United States and our allies. You have to have that kind of approach, and we're not seeing that today. Today we're seeing an isolationist approach, which is very dangerous to the world.
Former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore, former head of a national anti-terror panel. As you continue to think about running for the White House in 2016, I hope we can keep the conversation going.